How you doing, Phil?
I'm good, Scott.
We're getting down to the wire on your book.
That's
We've
the book.
got a few more episodes to go discussing all the clips, part of your clipography, and you've got four on the go for this evening. So let's get to them. You're going to lead most of these conversations. Two of the movies, two of the four I haven't seen, and
Oh,
two I
really?
know,
Okay.
obviously, but the one I watched recently, the other one I got to be at the one that I think what's going to be the fourth one on our list. I'll let you reveal them, but I think that one I watched so long ago, I just don't remember it that well. But
Okay.
you
So
lead the way, and I'll chime in when I can.
I know you've seen Perks because it was just in the
Yep.
past week. Is the other one you've seen the Squid and the Whale, right?
Yeah.
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 If you ever do want to see New Waterford Girl, you can
Yeah, I'd
watch it
like to.
free on CBC Gem. You just got to sign up. And actually, Mid90s is on either Prime or Netflix now. We watched it. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so they're all readily available for free, or I shouldn't say that if you are
Right.
subscribed.
Yeah. Easy to
Anyway,
find. Yeah.
yeah. They all group together perfectly because they're all coming of age films, different ages, ranging from the 12-year-old kid in mid-90s. Let me see, New Waterford Girl, Mooney's 15, Squid and the Whale. It's both sons, but if we say it's Jesse Eisenberg, I think he's about 16 or so. And then Perks of Being a Wallflower, it's really I even have the names of all the characters. It's really Charlie's story. So
Hmm.
he's just starting high school, right? So he's about 15 or so. I think he took a year off school. Anyway, so we've got one young kid, three a little older, three males, one female, but they all definitely fall into the coming of age genre. And if we were mapping it out, we would include it at the very least eighth grade in this group, which we did much
Right.
earlier. Anyway, taking them in chronological order, we can start with New Waterford Girl, which I highly recommend. It's a Canadian film, came out in 1999. I think I may have mentioned it in passing because we always talk about what a watershed year 99 was for
Right.
pop music and
Yeah.
movies. We had, what was the big one? Scott, that's Virgin
Is
Suicides,
that
I think.
Virgin Suicides? Is it Boogie Nights, or was that a
Yeah,
year?
it's actually more like a window.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Nights is 97, Rushmore's 98. And then in 99, we have um, Virgin Suicides,
High Fidelity, I think you
High
mentioned.
Fidelities in there. Uh, uh, oh, um, Also Magnolia and New Waterford Girl, and there's other films too. Um, I think I probably saw, I don't think New Waterford Girl got much of a release, so quite likely I saw it as a one-time thing at the what was then the Cinematheque. And it kind of fits in with Going Down the Road and films like that, in that it's set, I mean, not really, but it's set in New Waterford. Oh God, I hate this. Every time we do something like this, the computer starts giving me all these things, like Adobe starts popping up on the screen. I don't
Oh,
want to have it
geez.
there right now because I've got all my notes set out on the laptop.
Okay.
Uh, New Waterford, I think it's Nova Scotia.
I
Yes.
was going to say, where's New Waterford? That's
I
not in,
know it
right?
shows my ignorance of Canadian geography. Let's say it's Nova Scotia. It's a small town, and this 15-year-old girl, basically, she just wants to get out.
Hmm.
She just hates the town, or so she thinks. Um, and it's got a very strange plot because another girl, approximately the same age, arrives from New York with her mother, who's played by Kathy Moriarty. And she and Tim knows this. Either he went to school with the actress or his family knows their family or something. He's got some personal connection. Her name's Tara. Her name is Tara Lynn. The actress is Tara Spencer Nairn. And she has this weird thing where she knocks out one of the boys in town. And then it becomes this running thing where if she knocks you out, a boy, it means that you're guilty of something. And if
Hmm.
you are able to stand your ground, you're not guilty. And it's got this weird thing that maybe I just wasn't paying close enough attention the second time. It has to do with basically in this town, the young women, they get pregnant, they pretend to go away for a while, they have their baby, then they come back, and then they lead out their lives. And it's just the way things are in this small town. So if Mooney tries to use that as an excuse to get out of town, she pretends she's pregnant. She's not. And meanwhile, she befriends, her name is Mooney, she befriends Lou, and they just strike up this friendship. And, Mooney is, and this is treated very kind of casually. I mean, unbelievably casually. She's her English teacher, adult, obviously in his 20s, late 20s, or early 30s, played by Andrew McCarthy, the Brat Pack guy. He's in love.
Yeah.
He's in love with Mooney, and people in the town seem to know that.
Wow.
Like they don't. There's no physical thing. Nothing physical goes on in the film, but I think maybe you're supposed to believe that things have gone on. Things go, but it's just not treated very. It's not. It's kind of just a minor subplot. Anyway, she does end up leaving town at the end. She's about to board the train. It's a great ending. She has second thoughts. She realizes she does love this town, but her mother forces her onto the train, which is it's done really nicely. It's one of these great train leaving scenes at the end of the film. So it's got, the story that didn't always make sense to me, but as a mood piece, it's very good. And even though I'm going to start by totally second guessing myself on the song I chose, it's got one aspect that you'll just love as a can rock thing. So for the book, I chose Dragging the Line, Tommy James, which is not Canadian. And I'm really second guessing myself. It's used as the opening song. The film opens. She's giving a voiceover monologue, and we just see her face looking upwards. And then it's got a funny thing where she's hitchhiking at the side of the road. She's got a sign that's saying Mexico. And apparently she does this all the time. The people in the town don't even take her seriously. A car rolls up, it's someone that knows her, and he goes, "Well, gee, Mooney, I'm just, going down to the store, so I can't really take you to Mexico. You want to just get in and get a ride?" And she goes, "Sure." So she hops in, and then Tommy James starts. Now, the only problem why I'm second guessing myself is they play the whole song, but it plays for about 8 seconds before they cut to the credits. The opening credits are nothing. It's just text. So 95% of the song is over the opening credits. Now, I picked that Tracy Ullman song for the Nixon film, but that's fine because there's lots happening in the opening credits, right? We get all.
Now, would you have seen this originally in the theater?
Yes, and I think I was just
maybe it was the sound and stuff too.
I know. Well, that's it. And you know how much I love Dragging the Line.
Yeah.
Mention it. That's the song. It's not Tommy James and the Shondells. It's Tommy James first or maybe second. A little bit Dragging the Line, which is an incredible song. I never heard it in the movie, and it just knocked me out. I was so swept away by having that turn up in a song that, as you point out, I saw in the theater, filled the theater. I ended up picking it, but now I really wonder. I don't think I could justify it. There's about eight or 10 seconds of stuff actually happening, and then it's text. But the rest of the film is interesting musically. Now, if you were to watch the film, I don't think first time I watched it, I don't think I picked up on this till well into the film. It's set in the 70s. It seems to not be set at any time when you're watching it. Like it could be today, it could be 20 years ago. There's no real indication. Yeah. Maybe if I paid close, I don't even know if the way they dress indicates that when it's set. But as a can rock thing, so there's one other American song of note used in it, and she was pretty well. I don't remember exactly how, but Patti Smith's "Ask the Angels." I think it's
that one. Yeah, I think it's the second album.
Yeah. What album is that off?
That's Radio Ethiopia.
Yeah, I knew it was one of those ones after Horses. And it's used well, and I recognized it right away as Patti Smith. But then listen to this. Back to back to back to back. You get Flood, Ticket to Nowhere, Stampeders, Wild Eyes, both big Foot in Cold Water hits. Make you do anything you want. Make me do anything you want. And then the other one that Tim likes so much, I can't think of the name of that. And then also April Wine, "I'm on Fire for You, Baby." They're all used.
Wow.
I didn't jot down exactly how they're used, but they're all used well. They all play loudly enough for a few seconds.
Wow.
This might be like the great CanCon. The one
Yeah.
the one I identified in the film is great CanCon film was that not documentary, but the fictionalized one on Trudeau, which
Mm.
used just a ton of Canadian stuff and used April Wine, and I think also used Flood's Ticket to Nowhere in a key scene. I think the FLQ maybe, but this one might be better. And let me add, they have a weird scene where have you heard of Matt Minglewood? I'm sure you've
Yeah.
heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a club scene where Ashley McIsaac, who got into a load of trouble at one point, he joins Matt Minglewood on stage. So they're supposed to be the
Wow.
Minglewood band, who I looked it up, made a couple albums in the 70s, including
Yeah.
one in 79 that had a song called Whiz Kids. That's the song they play in the film, but it's played live with that, accompanied by
Okay.
McIsaac on fiddle. And obviously Matt Minglewood would be much, considerably older. I
Yeah.
think I tried to download that album once, and I think it was one of the rare things I couldn't find on SoulSeek. I'm
Mm.
going to try again. So you got all five of those, and there's also a Betty Wright disco song.
Oh yeah.
You would love this. Actually, two of these films have this in common, including Perks of Being a Wallflower. We can talk about it. It's got the quadrophenia scene where someone's not happy with what's on the turntable at a
Right.
party, and they come over and they take it off. So they're playing all this Canadian rock at this party on 8-track, and the friend Lou, she's really neat in this film, like really cool. She comes in and she has to drag Mooney into the party, and she kind of goes over to the stereo, takes it out, puts on a Betty Wright disco song, and she starts dancing, by herself, and all the kids are just staring at her. And then, they kind of flash forward to 3 minutes later, they're all dancing to the disco song.
That's great.
So it's got this great disco comes to Nova Scotia moment.
Yeah.
Very much recommend the film as a mood piece.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Follow the plot. I did. I wasn't paying close enough attention. It's got kind of a religious angle and, religious miracles and all that. And Nicholas Campbell plays the father. He's good. Something tells me there might even be one other prominent person in the film.
Wasn't there, I could have this totally wrong. There was a woman, a comedian who ended up
Mary,
having a show on
Mary Walsh.
CBC or
Yes,
something.
Mary Walsh.
Right. She's in, okay, so she like played
Yes.
mother or something like, no, she wouldn't have been that old. Right?
No, she plays Mooney's mother.
Okay.
I
Okay.
got confused because the actress in Perks of not sorry, the actress in Mid the actress, one of the mothers. Oh, the actress in Perks of Being a Wallflower is not Mary Walsh, but May Walsh,
Hmm.
who plays Charlie's.
Yeah, she was
Uh,
the first thing when you mentioned the title of the movie. For some reason, I associate her with that. Maybe she was in one of the posters
Yeah.
of the movie or
What's
something.
the big show she was in? A comedy show? This Hour
I
is
can't
Fun?
remember. It was one of those CBC.
Yeah. She used to go around to interview people in
Right,
character.
right. She was funny actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of her, but
Yeah. Last thing I'll mention, two young actresses have sat in front of me or just behind me at the Cinematheque. One of them was Sarah Pauly. The other one was the actress who plays Mooney, Leanne Balaban.
oh really?
Gone on. She's done a lot of TV since then. In the film, she's playing a 15-year-old girl. I think she was 18 or 19 at
Right.
the time. And she's still acting. She's very striking looking. She looks like a Modigliani painting. She's got this angular face, like you look at her and you just go, wow, she's got a very unusual, memorable look to her.
Yeah.
And she dresses very differently. Even like she dresses not like the time period she dresses almost like a Mennonite or
Oh, okay.
person. Let's keep it moving. We'll move on to Squid and the Whale, which, as you say, you've seen and haven't seen for a while. And it's good that we're talking about these two first, because I did second guess myself on the song I picked for that too. This time, the thing with New Waterford Girl, if I hadn't picked Drag in the Line, I couldn't justify picking any of those other songs. It simply wouldn't have been in the book. But Squid and the Whale, I think I probably would have been better to go with, you know what I'm going to say, Lou Reed's Street Hassle,
Hmm.
just for how it's used in the film. I
Yeah.
picked Burt Yanch's, I always get the title wrong. It's not Counting Blues, it's Courting Blues.
Courting Blues, yeah.
And again, I picked it because it just knocked me out. I had never heard Burt Yanch up until I saw this film, which seems like it would probably make some people laugh because he's been around since the mid 60s. Donovan wrote a song about him. He is a figure of some significance. Just one of those English folk guys I'd never heard.
Yeah.
Um, and it's used very well. It's very prominent when it comes in, and it's very prominent when it goes out. For most of the duration of the song, it's just low in the background. So, it's not as key to the film as Street Hassle, which we'll talk about in a minute. It starts off just after the scene. Squid and the Whale is this great film about a marriage breaking up and how it affects the two kids. One of them played by Jesse Eisenreich, the first time I ever saw him in a film.
Eisenberg.
Jesse Eisenreich. Who's I? Oh, I'm thinking of Jim Eisenreich, baseball player,
Okay.
who had Tourette's syndrome. Jesse Eisenberg, and the other kid the other kid is just bizarre. Owen Klein plays Frank, the younger boy. It's one of the weirdest child performances you'll ever see. Amazing performance by Jeff Daniels. One of the strangest, oddest performances from an actor you think who's just, he's pretty recognizable, Jeff Daniels, and all his other films, Something Wild. He's done so many films of prominence. I guess Something Wild's probably his most famous. He plays the father who's like this self-centered, intellectual and also pseudo-intellectual. And he's just so great in it. He has to play who's this cold, unlikable character. Laura Linney's great as a mom. She's always great. And their marriage breaks up, and it just devastates the two kids. And the younger son gravitates to the mom. The older son kind of hates the mom and gravitates to the father. But then in the penultimate scene where he's in the hospital with his father, it's great. I think he finally realizes, not that he stopped loving his father, but finally realizes just what a blowhard his father is. His father is constantly passing judgment on every book that's, he's an author
Right.
and professor. Every book his son reads, everything. And his pronouncements are really pompous. So that's the basic story. The Burt Yanch song plays just after they reveal the divorce. And for the next 3 minutes is, they're kind of dealing with it the first time they have to get their heads around it. He's talking with one of his friends on the subway platform who says joint custody blows. It's used well, but the better song probably would have been the Lou Reed Street Hassle, which is used incredibly memorably at the end. Earlier in the film, we find out that I think he's seeing a therapist, Jesse Eisenberg's character is Walt. I think Walt is seeing a school therapist, and the guy says, tell me about a happy moment in your life. He remembers as a kid his mom taking him to the Natural Museum of History. So there's this scene at the end. His father's made a fool out of himself, trying to lunge in front of a car as he goes to visit the wife for some reason. The kids witness this. As he's lying there on the ground, here's how pretentious his father is. He does this gesture with his thumb to Laura Linney, goes like this. And then she looks at him like, he's just been hit by a car. Like, what are you doing? He goes, Godard, breathless. He's breathless. It's what Jean-Paul Belmondo does at the end of Breathless. You can still hear me, right?
Yeah, no, sorry. I'm having this little side conversation. I'm recording it all, so keep going.
Okay. I'll just ramble on. So his father's in the hospital. His son goes to visit him. And again, his son starts breaking down. When you see him start to well up and cry because he can't stay. He just sees his father for what he is. So he leaves the hospital. I mentioned this in the Zoom I did with Stephen, and we had Squid and the Whale. It's got one of, I think, the great, most subtle visual jokes in any film. But just before he leaves the room, his father says, "Oh, make sure you catch a glimpse of the one nurse. She looks like a young Monica Vitti," which is so obscure right away. And then, sure enough, as he's leaving the hospital, we get literally a 1 second glance of this bored-looking nurse at the desk, and she looks just like Monica Vitti. Then he leaves the hospital, and that's exactly when Lou Reed Street Hustle starts up, the middle section with all the strings. And it's just incredible. He goes to the Natural Museum of History to see this exhibit, The Squid and the Whale, which at the time I thought was just a terrible title for a film. I still think it probably stopped people from seeing it. You know, like you have to choose a film to see. Let's go see The Squid and the Whale. I think they probably could have come up with a better title, but it is key to the film. And it just ends with him staring, a close up of Jesse Eisenberg staring at that. And the title comes up very dramatically. And then it plays through the first minute of the credits, and then they switch over to a Loudon Wainwright song, the swimming song. Great film. Had it, I've had it various times on my all-time favorite list, not just the decade end list, but I've seen it probably half a dozen times. I didn't watch it again this time. I fast forwarded to the key musical scenes. Something I did tonight was I just for each film I jotted down other films of note. So also in the film, Love on a Real Train by Tangerine Dream, which is turned up now 2 or 3 times. And I wrote about it in the book in connection. The first time I wrote about Mr. Robot, it was the best song of Mr. Robot up to that time. Now I did a second entry on Mr. Robot, came up with a better song, but in the first 2 seasons, they used that. It was the best thing in it. It also turns up in, obviously its first famous appearances in Risky Business. Pretty sure. And I think both Mr. Robot and Squid and the Whale are probably kind of paying homage to Risky Business in a way. It's used during the big climactic scene on the subway. That's in it. The McGarrigle sisters' Heart Like a Wheel is in it for a few seconds. I think somebody's visiting somebody. Can't remember exactly. The Feelies' Let's Go is played in the background during a funny scene where Jesse Eisenberg is left alone with Anna Paquin, who, Jeff Daniels is sleeping with one of his students, or he always sleeps with his students. He's after another one. Anna Paquin's, like 19 years old. They've got this weird living arrangement where she's moved in with him and Jeff Daniels and Jesse Eisenberg. He's in the room alone with her, and he sees her bare leg and he reaches down to kiss it, and she lifts her. I don't know, she gets a knee in the forehead. It's really awkward. The Feelies are playing in the background. And then the other key song, and I don't know if you remember this, it's this really weird, interesting subplot. And again, Jesse Eisenberg is so weird in this. He's been practicing this song for the school assembly. And he claims to have written it, and it's Pink Floyd's Hey You. and it's like his parents don't want to point that out to him. Finally, someone does point it out to him, I think. And he does.
I remember that, yeah.
I can't remember if he actually does it at the assembly. I think he does that at the assembly, and people are looking puzzled. And finally, after the assembly, someone points it out to him. In fact, in that scene I just mentioned, Anna Paquin says, I guess you like Pink Floyd, eh? And he says, what do you mean? He says, oh, don't worry, I used to steal Lou Reed lyrics all the time from my poems. But then at some point, key point in the film, somebody just point blank says, well, you didn't write that. As well, it depends what you mean. And he tries to rationalize it. It's so weird. The other thing I want to say before moving on is Noel Baumbach. This film was produced by Wes Anderson. Now, those two guys have taken such divergent paths from me. Wes Anderson, I talk often about how I just can't stand his films. Now, Noel Baumbach, I think, has continued to be interesting. I don't know if there's the one film he made that got a lot of attention on Netflix, which was about his breakup with Jennifer Jason Leigh. It was called A Married Couple or something. It was with Adam Driver, and I can't remember who played the wife, like a really prominent actress. That was maybe a little iffy, but I've liked the 2 or 3 other films of his since. I think he's done fine, whereas Wes Anderson's off the rails right now.
Yeah.
why don't we skip forward to mid-90s and then you and I, because you've seen Perks, and I would like to, hear your thoughts on it. So I don't think I need to say a whole bunch of mid-90s. Let me talk about it now. It comes out in 2018. When I watched it again, I definitely enjoyed it. I think it's an underrated, underseen film that now will probably be lost to history because Jonah Hill got in some trouble. Like it was more for something he said. It wasn't anything he did. He said something really awkward and it didn't get a lot of attention at the time. In fact, I think it kind of got overshadowed by eighth grade. They came out fairly close to each other. I think it's a really good film. It's about this 12-year-old kid who's got this abusive brother, memorable, scary performance by Lucas Hedges, who beats him up. And he worships these kids at a local bike shop. But he's, too shy. This kid is like a non-entity. He just goes there just so he can kind of be close to them. He finally befriends them. The kid's real name is Stevie. But this guy who is sort of the key guy, it's a group of 3 or 4 guys at I call it a bike shop. It's a skateboarder shop. Great performance. The actor's name is Nakel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Nakel Smith. He's amazing as Ray. I meant to check to see if he's gone on to do anything. He's kind of the putative leader of this group, the guy that everybody looks up to. He nicknames everybody, so he calls Stevie Sunburn because Stevie asks this real nice. He asks this question. They're doing this awkward question thing, and Stevie says to Ray, "Do black people get sunburn?" Everybody just laughs at him. So he starts calling him Sunburn. There's this weird guy who seems to be of mixed parentage, black and white. His character's name is, I don't know what they just call him fuck shit because of he says it all the time. He's got really long flowing hair. Another guy named Ruben, who I can't remember his nickname. He ends up he's Stevie's best friend at first. He brings him into the group, but then he begins to become jealous of all the attention Stevie gets. And then the other guy who says hardly anything through the film, he's supposed to be really dumb, 4th grade. He ends up being a key character because, now I'll get to the music, as this film unfolds, and it's really subtle for a long time. I thought it got a little melodramatic for about 20 minutes where Stevie has these really loud, cathartic scenes, first with his brother, then his mom, and then with Ruben. They're all kind of in a row. That kind of broke from the mood of the rest of the film. Ray talks to him, gets it back on track. And then at the end, they go out, they get into this really bad car accident. And his mom and Stevie ends up in the hospital. It's done really, the car accidents filmed really in a very unique way. You'd have to see it. I won't try to describe it. But then he's in the hospital in the last scene. Nice scene where his mom, who's been suspicious of this group of friends the whole time, in fact, once visited the skate shop and just chewed them all out. She sees them all at the hospital there. And she sees that, yeah, these guys really are his friends and they're like a second family to him. So she invites Ray in to see him. And then the next scene we cut to all of them around the hospital bed. And turns out the whole film, 4th grade, and we know he's got a camera. He's been filming stuff. And he says, "You guys want to see my film?" And that's how the film ends, with this 2-minute film called Mid90s. And the soundtrack is The Far Side's Passing Me By.
Wow. There's
a Far Side song I love that I once included on, I think, the CIUT countdown. I can't even remember what it is. It's not that. I think it's their signature song. And it's great. It's just, you can look it up on YouTube, Scott. I should have sent it to you. Could have at least watched that. It's just this kind of MTV-ish kind of film, like, whatever the big show on MTV was.
Right.
All these little snippets of their friends doing crazy things with the Far Side playing.
Wow.
It's a good ending to the film. It's a very good film for a lot of hip hop. I don't know the bands I know, or at least have read about. I don't know the songs. So Far Side's in it with a couple of other songs. Tribe Called Quest is in it. Jeru the Damaja.
Oh, yeah. Jeru the Damaja, I think. The
Damaja. I don't know if they spelled that right. I went to What Song or Tune Find. I remember that from Kerstigo's columns. I don't think they're spelling the the second part of the name right. I remember the Giroux part. The Grave Diggers, I remember them. Cypress Hill's in there. Mr. Davalina by Del the Funky
Mm.
Savior. A lot of good hip hop. It's all used well, mostly just for background and mood music and stuff.
Right.
There's a great scene, totally, breaking with all of that. Great scene with Mamas and Papas, dedicated to the one I love, where they're just
Oh, wow.
skateboarding down this road with cars going every direction.
Wow.
Cars don't seem to mind the skateboarders. Skateboarders don't mind the cars. And the Mamas and Papas are playing, and it's just this great kind of sequence of great freedom as they skateboard. And
Wow.
Nirvana turns up in there also. Very, again, like New Waterford Girl, definitely worth taking the time to see. I don't think it got the attention that it deserved. And I think one day one day it's going to be like, what's the film we did with the Cheap Trick song?
Over the
1979.
edge, is it? Is it over the edge?
Yes. One day it's going to be like Over the Edge. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the Over the Edge of the 2000s.
Yeah. And
Trying
so,
to
did
think
you
of-
say who the director was of that Mid90s?
Oh, I should. Oh, that's the thing. I didn't even mention it. The director. Yeah, I did mention it. The director is Jonah Hill.
Jonah. Oh, he's the director. Oh, I didn't know he was the director. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think, and he wrote it and directed it. And I've got to guess it's very autobiographical that he's this kid that was either heavily involved, probably both, heavily involved in skateboarding when he was that age, and
Okay.
heavily involved in the hip hop. Oh, and I got to mention one scene, Scott. It's the only film I've seen. There may be others that has the equivalent. We've talked lots about scenes where people flip through record collections, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about Almost Famous. We've talked about other films. I think the Olivier Assayas film is a scene like that. This has one where he sneaks into his older brother's room because he wants to get him a gift. And again, his older brother is scary in this film. He beats up the younger brother. And we see him, point of view shot going over his cassette collection.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's mostly, or probably
like homemade cassettes or
no store-bought hip hop.
Okay. Wow.
And I didn't stop the film. I should have jotted down some of the titles, but I have the feeling it's all hip hop.
Yeah.
And then it's got a nice scene where they're out to dinner and he gives the brother his gift. He worships, even though he gets beat up by his older brother, he kind of worships him early in the film. He says, "I don't think you have this one." And the brother seems taken off guard by the gift. And he doesn't really respond. He doesn't make fun of it, but he doesn't really respond. So that was neat too.